Welcome to the April 20th, 2026, the UAE Shot Across the Bow edition. Before I First, I have to give some background information of what I'm talking about when I talk about a shot across the bow. Shot across the bow simply means a warning, a signal. And to explain this, I first have to tell you the story of Argentina. So, Argentina is a country that has allowed its currency to devalue a lot. A country will often do this for many different reasons, but the fact is, in 2021, $10 would buy 930 Argentine pesos. Last year, $10 would buy 11,000 pesos. Huge devaluation. So President Trump, who happens to be good friends with the president of Argentina, said, "Hey, we're going to give you $20 billion line of credit." And then Scott Bessent went on and said, "We'll even offer another $20 billion to protect." So literally putting $40 billion of American money on the line to prop up the Argentino peso. And since then, the peso has devalued about 20% since the US made that deal. So we have definitely lost money. Even if they cashed in right now, we have lost money. The UAE, shifting gears, I'm going to talk about both in a second, but first you need to see this slide. The UAE holds a phenomenal amount of dollar-denominated assets. So the black line you see there is the foreign reserves, foreign exchange reserves. The orange line is the amount of treasuries, so more than $100 billion of US treasuries. So in other words, a lot of liquidity out there, a lot of money out there. The green line is one that I wish I knew somebody in the UAE Central Bank. I used to. There was an economist that came to UAE to UAU a couple of times to speak, and she was wonderful. I'd love to know why sometime between and sometime over a year ago, the UAE increased its dollars holdings, like dollar bill holdings, phenomenally. So why we have more than $50 billion in literal cash, I have no idea. Anyhow, the moral of this story is the fact that the UAE has lots and lots of dollars, no liquidity issues. Okay? Now, let's go back and talk about why the president supported Argentina. Argentina is an ally, so we not only gave them this credit line to support the peso, but he also said, we're going to buy Argentina beef because beef prices in America are too high, so we can lower beef prices by bringing in Argentina beef. Of which one of my MAGA friends is my neighbor Brad, who raises cattle. And I was like, "Brad, how do you feel about the president selling you out and bringing in Argentina beef to undercut?" And his reply was, "It's a small amount of beef. It's not going to impact our prices that much. It's just a small amount." I was like, "Okay. So the next time a Democrat does something that's not going to have a big impact, I'm going to remind you that, oh, it's just a small amount. What's it really matter?" So the president was willing to put a large amount of money on the line to help out a friend. Well, yesterday, the UAE did the shot across the bow to the US and said, "You know what? Right now, every barrel of oil that leaves the Gulf region is denominated in dollars. It's actually called the petrodollar, and it's existed forever. And that's why the currencies of the Middle East, so the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Saudi, all of those currencies are tied to the US dollar, pegged. So it is 3.67 dirhams buys $1, and that's the way it's always been. It's never been changed. That's what a peg is called. And the UAE said, "Well, if we want to remain this peg in the future, the US has got to be willing to make some extra liquidity available to us. The US needs to open a line of credit for the UAE because we're selling all of UAE oil goes to Asia. No oil from the UAE goes to America. And so if we're going to sell our oil and use petrodollars, then the US needs to be willing to give us a line of credit." to back this up. And at first, some analysts read this as, is the UAE in a liquidity crisis? Do they need the money? Is this like Argentina where they desperately need the money? And then, as the slide I just showed you, no, the UAE has no liquidity crisis. The money is there, no problem. But it really is a shot across the bow. This is the way for the government to say to the United States, put up or shut up. You want to continue to have influence in this region? You want us to continue to use dollar? Well, then you need to be willing to backstop and make sure the dollar is something we're willing to use as a petrodollar moving forward. There is no reason for the US to back out of this one because unlike the Argentine peso, because the dirham is pegged to the dollar, there is no risk at all for this. This is a riskless transaction. So I will be very interested to see how the US media plays this because this will make news tomorrow. This will be played on CNBC. Are they going to play this as a risky move? Is it going to, it's not. It's not. So this will be something to watch in the next 24 hours. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that it is 420. I wish all of you well who partake in this holiday. It's not one I do, but I know it's a very important holiday for many people. So hope you have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.